seen, to come out of the shadows. God is saying this is a time for a lot of us to be seen, to come out of the shadows. And I was just sitting quietly, meditating on some things, listening for the Lord. And the Lord said to me, get back in the boat. Get back in the boat. And we often hear people preach from that perspective of getting out of the boat, right? To meet Jesus on the water, and all of that. But he's telling me, after one of the disciples was walking on water to come out to meet him, he took his eyes off Jesus. He started to drown. And when Jesus reached out to grab him, he talked to him about being of little faith, right? But then he returned back to get back in the boat, and then the storm ceased. God has been saying to me in this moment that we need to get back in the boat. Some of us are either drowning, or some of us haven't even got on the boat in the first place. We've never actually took the trip. Let's just go into this passage of Matthew 14. It starts at verse 22, right? It tells us that Jesus sends his disciples in a boat across the Sea of Galilee while he stays behind. Hours later, before the sun rises, they're in the middle of the lake and get caught in a sudden raging storm. Jesus goes out to them, walking across the water, and the disciples are terrified when they see him. At Jesus' direction, Peter gets out of the boat and starts to walk across the choppy waves towards Jesus. But the minute he takes his eyes off his teacher, he panics and begins to sink. Jesus reaches out and catches him and asks Peter, "You of little faith, why did you doubt?" And as soon as he gets into the boat with the disciples, the storm ends. So this isn't just about getting out of the boat, but it's about, first of all, being obedient and doing what God says by getting in the first place, right? And then after you took your eyes off of him, after you panicked and was beginning to sink and he had to catch you, you got to go back and get back in the boat. He went back. He didn't stay in the water. He didn't continue to just stand on water or anything. He went back and got back in the boat. And that's what God is saying to us. Some of us, we need to go back to the beginning, get back to where we once were, where we were really hearing from God, when we were being obedient to God's voice. Because somehow, some way, our own voice got in there and began to doubt and begin to come up with excuses of why we wouldn't attain certain things, couldn't and wouldn't see certain things, didn't get the outcome we wanted or whatever. And we've made excuses for our disobedience. And God is saying, I need you to get back in the boat where I told you to go in the first place. I need you to be back where I told you. God wants to show us a miracle. He wants us to get back to this place of building an altar, getting back to this place of prayer and seeking his face, getting back to the place of turning down our plate and fasting and seeking the Lord. He wants us to get back into the boat, get back into this place, this secret place of relationship with him. And not just doing all these different things, because we do a lot of things and we be making excuses. God says you're making excuses and I just need you to get back in the boat because I need to do something. And it's going to start here with this act of obedience. You're wondering why you're not seeing that one thing. There are just like a few things that I've been talking to God about. And his answer to that was get back in the boat. And so that's all I want to say to you guys is that if you've been asking a question, you feel like he hasn't been answering or he's been avoiding the question, he's not avoiding it. He's telling you to do something and you haven't done what he told you to do. And so that's why you're not seeing the outcome you need to see. Because it's one thing that you've been making excuses about why you can't do it. This is where you're going to see the breakthrough. Getting back in the boat takes courage. Think about what it had to take for them to get in this boat in the middle of the night. Anything after 12 a.m. is no longer night. It's actually morning, because this is the time that fishermen go out You know, I was born in the South. I have a lot of fishermen in my family, and they typically go out early morning. And when I say early morning, I'm talking about the hours between 12 and like maybe 5 a.m. Can you imagine if God woke you up and said, go into a storm or go out into the night and get in a boat? How much courage it's going to take for you to do something like that. So when he says get back in the boat, it's for you. It may be something that seems crazy, seems a little crazy, seems a little outlandish. Okay, so if you're wondering, what did God tell me to do? More than likely, if you haven't done it yet, it's probably something you really don't want to do. And he's saying, get back in the boat. Get back in the boat. This is going to take some courage. This is going to take your obedience. This is going to take you shutting down the voices of people, of your own thoughts, of the enemy's lies. And this might sound crazy, but a lot of people have making sacrifice an idol, where you're just all the time trying to do a fast. Everything, I got to do a fast for that. I got to do a fast for that. So much so that it becomes more of a habit. It's habitual instead of actually a reason to get closer to the Lord and be in intimacy with God. You're just doing it to get something out of God. This is what he's saying. Obedience is better than sacrifice. God is asking you to do something. It's an action that you need to take, something you need to be obedient in. It's an action. And he's saying that you need to get in this boat. You need to get back in this place. For some people, it's back in that intimate place with him, the secret place, that place of intimacy and relationship. For some, it's an actual location you're supposed to be at. It's something you don't really want to do. But God is saying, when you do it, I'm going to show you a miracle. I'm going to show you a miracle. I'm going to bid you to come. And when you do it in faith, you're going to be able to do what I do. Because see, we're supposed to be looking more like Christ. What was he doing in this passage? He was walking on water. This whole passage is about believing in God and trusting God. You had to trust God to get in the boat. You had to trust God to get out of the boat. You had to trust God to walk on the water and come out to him. So all of this is about trust. Has nothing to do with an actual boat or water or any of that. This is about trusting God and believing in God and not doubting what he can do. Prior to this passage, before all of this took place, he had just fed 5,000 people with a few loaves of bread and some fish. And so now he said, get in a boat. Peter steps out and then turns back and then starts to sink. So it's like, look how quickly God can be blessing us. And then how quickly we can begin to doubt. He could have just blessed you, healed your body. He tell you to do something. And how quickly we forget the God we serve. We forget that he's a miracle worker. He's a way maker. We forget. He's the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. We so easily forget what type of God we serve. I'm going to pray, seek the Lord, and try my best to do what he's called me to do and get back in the boat. There's a reward in your obedience. It truly is. It starts with obedience. And because your obedience signifies that you actually believe God, that you believe in him, that you trust him, that you love him. His word says, if you love me, you'll do what I say. It says, if you love me, you will obey my commands. So you want to show God how much you love him. What you can do is get in the boat. Get back in the boat. I love y'all. Stay blessed. Stay encouraged. I'll see you on the next one as the Lord leads.